Hi, everyone. Hello. My name is Vaughn. I'll be your moderator for this season's Coffee and Careers. Hoping I'm not the newest one here, but I've been told that Coffee and Careers is a learning platform designed to bring expert career advice and professional development to future animal scientists. And I think it's very interesting and helpful as someone new in the industry. I'm so excited to be a part of this and learn with you guys. So the topic for today's segment, excuse me, it's how to create a professional development plan throughout your career and how we can be of help.
I'd like to thank our sponsors. We have NutriQuest, Continental Search, and IFF that are our sponsors. We couldn't do this without them. And of course, I have a great volunteer committee as well. And so that's kind of where I want to meet the tribe. Right now, I'm unlocking them to come speak with us. So, Amanda, why don't you go ahead and start us out with an introduction?
Yeah, sure. So, hey, everybody, I'm Amanda Minton. I work for Acuity Genetics as the Associate Director of Reproductive Technology. And so we are happy to be part of Coffee and Careers in Animal Science. Acuity has been involved the last few years and think it's a great avenue to meet students and young professionals and just to help us network with those individuals and can hopefully bring some of them on to Acuity.
Edward, this video is up. You want to go ahead next and introduce yourself?
Sure. So, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So, my name is Edward Yang. I am a fresh PhD. Just got out of school and joined a company called NutriBeans as the business development manager. And I was a student mentee of Casey and the whole Coffee and Career crew, and I benefited a lot. And now it's my turn to pay back and show, some of the knowledge I have for the younger students. Yep.
Veronica?
There I go. Awesome. All right, so I'm Veronica. I am a master's student at Michigan State University. I have just kind of recently started with Coffee and Careers, and it's been super exciting and super rewarding being a part of this tribe. I've gotten to meet so many amazing people, and it's been quite an awesome experience working with these groups and creating these professional relationships with everyone.
I say that also the other committee members on here that are having maybe some issues connecting to audio video is we got Ana de Sosa. She is now with EW Nutrition. And then we have Regina Matera with IFF as well that will be helping us discuss. And then we got Dan Simmons with Continental Search. So if any of you participated last year, we all know Dan's awesome presentations he gave. And so I will turn it over to Amanda, who will be leading the conversation now.
All right, great. Thanks, Casey. Well, we're glad to have all of you on today. And so today's topic is a professional development plan. So what is a professional development plan? And so as we go through this, it's essentially just a list of actionable steps to help you reach your career life goals. And that could be a variety of things. That could be wanting to put together a plan to finish your thesis. It could be putting together a plan to get to your first job or your next job, or it could be putting together a plan to complete certain projects during your career. And so one of the things to note about a professional development plan is that it should really change throughout your career life. So if you are just starting out in your career, things that are important and priorities for you now are probably going to be different as you perhaps get older and have a family and may have other obligations. And so really, when we think about professional development plan, I think it can be a little bit intimidating to get started, but it's really just starting with that first step and making sure that you've got a good path to get your steps and your your steps written down and we'll kind of go through that and what that looks like. So any additional, I guess, feedback or comments from the CNC tribe? Do we want to do one of the polls, Casey? The first, did you have any of the questions in the polls?
I've already sent the first one out. So our first poll question that we've started was, do you know what a professional development plan is? And the results were 83% said yes, and 16% said no.
Okay, great. Good.
And
So a lot of
the next one out right now is if they have a development plan.
Okay. Sounds great. All right. So as we go through some of the different steps on how to kind of put together a development plan, the first thing that you want to do is a self-assessment. So really think about and evaluate what your professional interests are, what you're knowledgeable about, what skills you have. And if this is hard for you to do, I mean, I would encourage you to reach out to mentors or reach out to an advisor or, a coworker to help you kind of understand yourself better. Others may see you a little bit differently than you see yourself. So that's one way to get more of an accurate self-assessment. Some of the other things that we think about during that self-assessment is just looking at your personal limitations. So whether that be lifestyle, your family, your finances, and like I mentioned a little bit earlier, how does your professional development plan change over time, given some of those personal limitations? So as an example, from just personal experience, I decided to go back to graduate school after my first job because I saw when I was out in the field that I wanted to be more in technical services and knew that in order to do that, I really needed to go to grad school and get a degree to be more effective in technical service. So that was part of my plan to get to that point in time. Over time, I've had various jobs and I've had jobs where I did a lot of international traveling. But since that point in time, for example, my husband and I started having kids, and traveling a lot internationally didn't appeal to me as much. So looking at different careers and goals that really fit my lifestyle a little bit better, so I wasn't on the road all the time. So those are some of the things to think about as you're looking at your career goals and your professional development plan over time.
And I was just going to touch on the professional development plan. A lot of times we think of putting education into that. And for example, I've always known that, maybe I wanted to get an MBA. And I thought at one time in my plan that was part of it. But with my son, and then not only my son, but, between the finances and having a son and my lifestyle, that I had to probably take that off my professional development list. But who knows? Maybe when I'm 60, I'll still try it, right? So
that's right. You're never too old to go back to school or learn something, right? Yeah.
But yeah. I'd definitely say my professional development plan, I don't know if it's changed or it's coming to fruition, because I was like, oh, maybe I want to be a VP someday, and I gave myself the title of president, and I guess I'm trying it out. But
yep, skip that VP step. There you go. Yep. Yeah.
Any other thoughts from Anna? Dan was on here.
Not really. Can you hear me when I speak?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I would say that I have been around for a long time. So in the beginning of my career, I didn't have a plan. I work as life showed up. So it was kind of hard, but I got here. So let's help somebody to have a better one.
That's right. That's a really good point. Yep.
Yeah.
I guess some of the other things that we think about, when you're doing your self-assessments, and something I kind of glossed over a little bit, but when you're thinking about your skills, don't just think about what maybe you specialize in. So if you're a nutritionist or reproductive physiologist or geneticist, don't just think about those things in terms of your skills, but also the skills that you have that can be transferred to whatever job you have. So, for example, your work ethic, how trustworthy you are, just how well you build relationships, your time management. Think about those other types of skills as well, and not just your specific area, for example, that you're focused in.
I was going to say, for some reason, Dan said he's muted, and I have tried to get him on audio, but I can't seem to get him in there. So,
Okay. Okay. Any other comments around this piece of it from Coffee and Careers?
I do have one comment. As a fresh PhD, and I think of this self-assessment thing. I wasn't really given a lecture on this, and nobody ever told me when I started my grad school. But during Coffee and Career, and Dan mentioned this in one of those, and I started to think about this, and actually all the education we're receiving in grad school, it's a way to help yourself understand who you really are and what you really want to do. And I think that's a really good point. And your career development plan at the beginning might be very different because you don't know yourself enough. And the more you know yourself, and the more you can change towards what you want, where you want to be. And that's what I did towards the end of my PhD, and then I kind of enjoyed that process. And then I really have to say, like, I really appreciate the self-assessment lectures we had in Coffee Career a year or two before. So yep, if you're a student right now, write out a plan, and then see if that works out or not. And then, but during that process, you will know if that's really something that you love or hate, or it's gonna fit you or not. So yep.
whoops, I didn't mean to pull that over there. But I'm also going to be sharing a document. So we have a plan. So this 5-step plan, we have a document. Mitch has already shared the quick guide to go through the 5 steps. So everything we're covering today is in that document, and we've prepared some resources to help you create your own plan. And
Casey,
Dan, we can hear you. Yes.
Wonderful. I figured out which button I had to push. Hi, I'm Dan Simmons. I own Continental Search, and we're a sponsor of this wonderful webinar series. I read through the article that this presentation is based on. It's all very good. One of the things I'd like to add here is that, yes, it's likely that your life plan, your professional development plan will change as your life goes on. All different kinds of things can happen. I recommend this question. What do I really want? It's the most, in my opinion, it's the most important question you will ever ask yourself or anybody else. What is it that you really want? And then once you have that, and that's what they talk about here in step 1, is the self-assessment. What do you want out of your career? And what's it going to take to get there? So if you don't get anything else from me out of this whole series, it's the question, what is it that I truly want? And ask it often.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes with, asking what your why is, right? And that's like maybe another way to ask that, but what's your why? What are you passionate about? And that end goal may not change a lot, but how you get there maybe changes.
Yep. And for a student, just like, a first year, second year in school, you may not know it, and it's okay. Don't rush, because I think last year, one of the questions people always ask is, well, I don't know what I want now. It's okay. Take some time, and by the time you get closer to that stage, you will know what you like, and, make a choice.
Awesome. I think we're ready to move to step 2.
So step 2 is really about setting those goals, and depending on where you work and what company you work for. I mean, our company uses this SMART acronym in setting goals, and SMART just stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. And I guess we sometimes sub that relevant for resources. So it's really important when you are looking at those goals to be very specific. What is it that you are trying to get to? And in order to get there, what metrics do you need to measure? What steps do you need to take to actually get and reach your specific goal? And then you have to ask yourself, is it achievable? A lot of times we overestimate or underestimate the amount of time that it takes to reach a goal, or we may underestimate the resources that we need to get there. So being realistic about what you can achieve and when you can achieve it is important. Next is just the relevancy of that goal to your plan, and also what resources do you need to get there. So resources can be different things to help you grow, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Or it could be other people that are in your life that can help you reach that goal. And then lastly is just the timely piece of it. So when are you going to achieve this goal? Are you going to achieve it in the near term, in the next 3 months, or is it going to be a longer term goal that you're going to work towards?
Any thoughts on that from the committee?
Yes. I have learned that setting goals and achieving them, there are a few things that you have to keep in mind. Number one, it always takes longer than you think. Number two, it typically costs more than you think, whether that's in time, money, effort, whatever. And the most important thing is continue to persevere. Of these SMART things, timely is the one that has to be variable. As long as you're making progress towards it, don't become discouraged when you don't get where you want to be. It talks about bite-sized goals. This will help you remember it. Here's the biggest question. Casey, you're an animal scientist. Do you know how to eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
Considering what Dan just said, one of the most important things in my life, I would say, to be persistent, to put things in my mind and think that I can get there, is not going to happen today or tomorrow. Be persistent in what you're doing.
I was going to say, Edward, you're just starting out. What are some of your goals for the next year?
That's a very good question. We're still trying to figure it out. But one of my goals is, there are a lot of people I know in the academia industry, like in the academia, but I don't know a whole lot of people in the industry. So I wanted to go to at least 10 conferences or meetings and meet, every time meet like 5 people I don't know. Those are some goals I've been trying to set for this coming year. And one example I want to give is I also have this kind of goal earlier when I was doing my PhD, and I don't know the SMART outfit at that time. So I set my goal, I need to read 100 books in 2021. I ended up reading 15, and it's okay. So this year I set my goal to be like 18. Like Dan just said, small bites at a time, but then you have time to adjust and know what you really can do. But also there's also a concept called stretch goals. You don't want to just settle in where you are right now, especially if you're young people. Let's say I normally go to 10 meetings and I just said next year I'm going to go to 10. Well, you can go to 11 or 12, just a little bit more. I think that's going to help you grow as well.
One of the things we use when setting goals, and this is the time of year we start to set goals for next year, it's what's my minimum? I'm going to feel terrible if I don't do X. What's my target? My target is Y. And Z is my stretch goal. What will I accomplish if I get to Z? Okay. To go to a meeting and say I'm going to meet 5 people, well, that's fine. That should be your basic. I'm going to meet 10. That's a good target. I'm going to meet 15 and celebrate if you hit 10, and celebrate more if you hit 15. Pat yourself on the back.
Awesome. Regina, you're pretty high up the ladder in IFF. I'm curious, what goals do you have for the next year or 5 years of your career? And we can't hear you, unfortunately. Special button, I think, somewhere that you...
Make sure your mic is set to the either phone or computer. Mine was set to phone. That's what screwed me up.
Or Amanda's got a hand up.
I have my hand up.
Somebody's, like, I had a amateur hand that came through.
I do see a 1 on the hand, so I don't know what that. Yes, somebody has their hand up.
So Ebenezer has a hand up to ask a question. You have allowed to talk. Okay.
Checking. Can you hear me now?
Yay, Regina. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. I tried to speak before and I was wondering if I was just interrupting everybody. So, all right, that's good. Yeah, that's very interesting. So yes, I think we all need to have goals, right? And I'll say something here, not only about my long-term goals, but also about how I managed this in the past. And somebody mentioned about being okay with changing things when the environment changes. So when I started my career, back in Japan many years ago, I was a finance person, and somebody asked me when they were hiring me if I would ever consider a role in marketing, and I said absolutely not, right? And I was the one 60 years later, and I saw I actually do want to change and I want to have a career in marketing and be brave enough to embrace those things because that is part of the game. You have goals, long-term goals, and depending on how your interests adjust, things that you learn, right? So we will learn more and doors will open. So don't close the doors just because you have some very rigid goals for yourself. So I set my goals, of course, for the long term and things that I want to do. But I also keep that flexibility on for the more that I learn and the people that I meet. So I have a mentor within the company that helps me out. I have a very supportive organization for my own career. And I try to do that for the people as well to constantly check ourselves on are those things that I'm aiming for, are those realistic, right? So maybe I have a pretty ambitious goal. Does the company see that the same way? Does that make any sense? And you keep yourself at check with the people that support you in your network. And then you can drive those things in a way that you can actually accomplish them, right? So I think this is the best way of navigating the goals game.
And I was going to say real quick, we have a hand raised for one of the attendees to ask a question. Ebenezer, can you do that? Audio, I allowed you speaking permission.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you very much, Dr. Casey. One of your resource persons was saying that we should be persistent. As you know, I graduated from my MSc program in animal science, and I want to pursue my PhD. I've reached out to countless professors, and no reply. Some they don't have openings, no position in their labs. So sometimes personally, I feel very sorry. I feel like I'm not doing the best. Do you have any remedy or recommendations for me? Sometimes I feel like, should I change my goals, or because I'm into monogastrics. I love working on swine and poultry. Currently, I'm a farm manager here in Babona Tetra, and I'm loving it. But I want to pursue my PhD. Dr. Casey advised me to also look into European schools as well, and I've put in some applications, and I'm yet to hear from them. But when I reach out to professors, that's my problem. They don't reply, and the few that reply also, it's not encouraging. So what do we do? What should I do?
Ebenezer, I would tell you that whenever you are sending information for a professor, as an example, or someone in a company, they have a lot of emails. Sometimes when you send a message, they may have seen your message, but then they got several other ones that they have to respond, and they end up forgetting. So one thing that I do professionally, even with customers, is that I send a message, and about a week later, I'll send just a little message. I just want to verify if you received this message, and they respond usually. Some people will not respond, but that is life, how it is. I would tell you that do not get depressed with that, because sometimes we have to wait for when is the best time for us, because sometimes we want the time that we want, and that sometimes is not the best position for us. Sometimes it takes much longer than what we want and what we think to get where we want it to be. I don't know if that was clarifying to you.
And it is, and I would just say persistence, but also if your approach is not working, then maybe you need to reevaluate that and talk to somebody that can help you through that. So those are things like if you're not meeting your goals, and like I have not met my business goals this year, and I'm reevaluating myself, and I'm sure Regina and Amanda and Anna and all of us have been in those meetings that we didn't hit our sales targets, for instance. And it's like, okay, we all get together and reevaluate what's not working to meet our goals. And, maybe your goal was, like Anna said, it's timely. It's on your timeline, but it's not on theirs. And, specific, you say swine and poultry. Well, I would use an example. Are you approaching these professors like, I really want to study amino acids, when you're asking a professor who studies amino acids, for instance? So, your goal to me is a little broad. What do you want to focus on, swine or poultry? And then in my mind, take it out even further. What do you want to study? And I don't think, maybe you have not looked at the full professional development plan and asked yourself, why do I need this PhD? What do I want to do in my career that requires to have a PhD versus work experience? And so I think that goes into the next step, that, professional development plan is not always about education. It's about, there's a lot that goes into getting to your goals that's not a document or education. Read books, learn more, become, vote, and add to that. So I think maybe you're missing some of these specific and measurable components to the goal.
Yeah. And Casey, I would add to what you said, is like, you can have a PhD, but if you don't know how to relate to people, that doesn't do anything for your career. Right?
Yeah.
One other thing I'd like to add here is, if you are attempting to connect with people and get your message through, find various ways to do it. If they're not responding to your email, try them on social media. If they're not responding to you on social media, send them a letter. The post office still works.
Yeah.
Okay? Try various methods and various messages. And Casey's dead on right. Get something very specific that you want to do, and then go find the person that's best at teaching that, and tell them why you want to study this under them. Flattery works fabulously. It motivates all kinds of people to do all kinds of things in all ways of life. If you tell them that I read your paper on blank, 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 and I am very interested in studying X, Y, and Z, where you have done this, and I'm wondering if you have a spot on your team, that's a whole lot more powerful than, well, I think I want to get a PhD in either poultry or swine.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And I think there is also a give and take, right? So a lot of networking is built on the basis of giving as well, right? So you're not always asking people to do things for you. But I see a lot of people that are very successful at doing that. They offer information, something valuable, and then it's a give and take, right? But don't lose sight of that. Don't be discouraged. Right? People say that success going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm, and that's really what it is, right? So adjust your goals, ask for feedback when you have a chance for these people to say, what do you think I should be doing differently? And really approach them in different ways. There are different channels. So Anna and Dan, hit the head on the nail.
Right.
I guess just to add to that a little bit, I'd say, if you're getting that feedback from the people that you talk to and you're just not getting into their programs, it probably doesn't hurt anything to try to work for a year in a field that you really want to get into to give you a little bit more experience, and then come back to some of those professors and say, okay, this is the extra experience that I have. And now maybe you have a better idea of what you really want to do and why you want to get that PhD. So that may give you a little bit more of a leg to stand on when you go back to somebody to see if you can be on their team.
Okay, right. Thank you very much.
Are we ready to move to the next topic?
So
I think we touched on this, so I'll let Amanda lead. So
yeah, I think we did, but this is really just about your plan or your strategy, right? So how are you going to achieve that plan? What experiences can you gain? For example, if your goal is to be in a technical services role, can you go spend a couple days with somebody in technical services to really understand that type of position? So just really understanding the strategy around your plan and what experiences can you gain to get there.
and I like the goal that Edward had. He said he's going to read some more books, so that kind of goes into education. But he said, I'm going to go to conferences and I'm going to meet people and I'm going to learn how the industry works. And I thought that really goes in really well. I think there's a lot of experience out there. The other point on the comment from Ebenezer on the other part was experience. What can I do with some of these affordable courses out on Udemy or wherever, Coursera? Regina said she didn't want to go into marketing. What are some of those other side courses that you can take and get some certificates that make you more valuable to show that you're developing yourself in different ways? So it's not just a college education. I think traditionally everybody wanted to see a master's or PhD to hire you, and I think that's changing in today's world. That it's more about your experiences and your other skill sets that you have that are going to make you valuable.
Yeah, I agree. I think internships, shadowing programs, all those things are extremely valuable, right? Most companies will be open to that. If you have the right connections, if you know what your goal is, ask for those opportunities, right? People will create the time to walk you through. It gives you the experience, and it also gives you a little bit of a peek preview on what to expect, right? Because sometimes when we think we know what we are going for and what we want, until we actually experience this, and that might change the plan. So that's a two-way avenue.
And it's too bad we don't have Marissa on here because she really embraced that idea, our extern that we had last year. And she dove in and tried out as many different experiences as she could. And she decided she didn't want to go into research and development. She didn't want to get her PhD, at least this part of her career and life. And so she took a different path. And I'm, really proud of her that she took the time and effort to decide what path she wanted to go on. Now that may change as well in a couple of years. We'll see.
I want to talk about experience before education, or experience compared with education. If you're having trouble getting where you want to be, go work in a barn. Everybody respects going to work in a barn. And I'm going to tell you how it will pay off. A few years ago, I was working with a bunch of fresh PhDs in dairy nutrition. I placed one of them at a salary of $80,000 to be a formulator. And she's going on to be in tech support. She's still with the company 4 or 5 years later. And she's probably now making $120,000 a year, doing really well. She didn't know how to milk a cow. She couldn't write a ration, but she had everything else around it. And she had good people skills. On the other hand, two of the people that were coming out the same year from different schools, all three great schools, had grown up on farms. One of them had 7 offers. The other one, I don't know how many he had, but the top offers for both of those were $150,000 each straight out of school, because they knew all about what was going on with the end user. You don't know where to go to the barn. If you want to make more money, go to the barn. Spend 6 months working for the producer. Doesn't matter what you make, they'll pay you enough to feed your belly and get that experience.
Very good points. That was the best 2 years I spent after my bachelor's degree was working in the barns.
Same. Yep. Same experience. Oh, I think you skipped one there, Casey. Maybe you meant to. There you go. So step 4 then is just using your different resources. So we talked some about education and whether that's continuing your education or certification in specific areas like Casey said. And I would say that includes, leadership and some of those more, I guess, soft skills and not just, I would say tactical skills, but some of those leadership skills. There's certainly all different kinds of books and webinars at your fingertips. I would say podcasts, at least from my experience, have been really good. I enjoy podcasts a lot, and I think a lot of other people do too, but there are some good podcasts out there. And then just using your network, right? So using the network that you have around you, your advisors, some of your peers, and just those that are part of your mentoring network as resources.
How many of you, we should have put a poll out there, but maybe we can get them to give a clap or something. How many of you listen to podcasts on a regular basis? Yeah.
Where's the clap button?
I don't know. Somebody was sending a clap. Yeah. So the audience, there, we got some thumbs going up. Yay!
I guess a question for the Coffee and Careers Committee or tribe, or what types of resources do you find most valuable or have served you the best?
Well, I can speak for myself. I think, honestly, all of the above, right? So I think there's so many resources these days. Reading, it's always going to be, first and foremost, but, audiobooks, if you're in a shorting time, now use any ride. If I'm driving to a customer and going somewhere, it's an opportunity for learning, right? If you're engaging with different people, you're at a conference, learn from them, learn from what they're doing, building a network. I mean, all those things are extremely important. So, learning opportunities are all over the place. You just have to use them and chase them, prioritize them. There is always a little bit of too much, right? So make sure that you use your time wisely for the things that are your top priorities, and keep learning, right? So learn, unlearn, because the things, there are lots of paradigms in our lives, things that we believe are true and then they're not, right? Be open to that, right? That's the process.
And I just will want to add on to that. I think for me right now, network is also very important. One of my first tasks at my new job is to find a lab for a compound. I'm now not expert in this area at all, but my undergrad advisor, who I haven't talked for years, sent me a congratulation email, and I replied, "Hey, do you happen to know a lab to do this analysis, because it's not very common?" And he said, "Well, I work with this a lot. Just use your network, because if you impress people, and people are willing to help you no matter what." Yep.
You never know who you're going to call on tomorrow that you talk to today.
Yep.
You never know who you're going to need to reach out to. So keep those contacts.
Yeah, one more comment that I'll add there. I think learning is really it's a process, right? It's less so about the subject itself because that we don't know what skills are going to be necessary in the future. The world is very dynamic. And we don't know necessarily what we need to learn right now, but you need to learn how to learn and make that a habit, right? So if you are a learner, you're going to be fine. So continue to learn, and whatever it is that you put your mind that you decide that you need to learn, you'll be able to. There is abundance of resources. You just got to have that will and desire to chase that, right? So when we're hiring for people, that's definitely a skill that we want to screen for. Is this person a learner, right? They don't need to come ready and know everything, but if that person is ready and open to learn, that is a major step forward, right? So it's definitely something that we screen in the people that we want to join the company.
And that is correct, Regina. That was a great point, because if I think what I knew when I finished college, that school, I would be several decades behind if I didn't learn after that. That is simple like that.
I was gonna say I am learning all kinds of crazy stuff that I never thought I would. So who knew I had to be an accountant, an HR person, um, a marketing expert, learn Canva, and I make sure I appreciate the marketing team a lot more than I ever did, by the way, of learning a lot of these new things. And so I love learning. And I'm kind of glad everybody still calls me a swine nutritionist, but actually that's my PhD, and it almost hinders me, right? That's what I'm known for, because I'm so much more now as a professional than a swine nutritionist. And I think a lot of times we even box ourselves in and working with one animal. And there's a lot of comparative and crossover that we can apply to other species. And we have to be open to learn. But I've met some professionals, and I see it more on the academic side, that we get in our little box of this is what we really like, and we stay there all the time, and you don't see that growth in them as well. And maybe it's because it's their comfort zone. But I remember, like, my boss, Brad James, my first boss at Comeback Feeds after my PhD. So veterinarians are like, they skim the top of the surface, and nutritionists, we have to dig really deep and learn about one thing. And I almost disagree with that. I think as animal scientists, we're trained to be able to skim the top and then dig deep. Like, I'm going to call the natural killer cells, or the T cells out there that I'm learning about again in immunology. Like, we got to figure out where we have to dig deep and learn more. So, and uncovering things that we didn't know.
All right, so the last stuff that we've got listed here is just the timeline. So the T and SMART. And so on timelines, it's good to set those, but it's also good to know that you might need to adapt things as you go. There might be things happen that are out of your control, or circumstances change. So we need to adapt those timelines as time goes on. Also need to be realistic, like we've talked before, that a lot of times we underestimate the amount of time that it takes to do something. So try to be as realistic as we can about setting that timeline. And then lastly is just accountability. So make sure you are holding yourself accountable for what you do achieve and can achieve. And if you aren't reaching your goals, then reassess and reflect on why that is. So making sure that if you don't reach a goal, that you are taking the time to understand why that is, and correcting the course so that you can get to your desired goal.
This is kind of comes in. It's been a year, and I probably should do it again coming up for 2023. Is I did a goal workshop, and we had a very few people participate, but the 5 or 6 of us that participated, we became each other's accountability partners, and we decided to meet monthly for the 6 months. Every month we would meet and say, hey, have we worked on these goals? And we had a couple students, we had a couple professionals in there. And I think that's the biggest thing is professionally, we like to say the professional development plan. A lot of companies do that. But on the goals, do you share them with anybody? What are some thoughts about having an accountability partner, and how do you hold yourself accountable when your goals over multiple years?
I had an accountability partner, and now use a professional coach for this. An accountability partner, you're sharing with them what you want to do, when you want to do it, and then there's a follow-up session. And your natural ego will drive you towards these goals because you don't want to have to tell this person I've failed. Now, if it's very possible that that's what's happening, or I've got obstacles I don't know how to get around. But pick someone as your accountability partner. If you can do it, somebody that's smarter than you. I've always picked somebody a lot smarter than I am. You can find somebody who's more accomplished than you. Great. But if not, find someone who will empathize with you, but will always encourage you, but will not let you give up. It can drive your success. It can be a very good use of time, and offer to be that person's accountability partner. This should be mutual. And we didn't do every month, we did every 2 weeks. And it helps keep you focused on what's important. Because as Steve Covey says, the most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing.
I was going to say, she's not on here, but part of our committee, Shishi Chen is my accountability partner. We're both leading startups, both kind of learning how to do that. And, and I think sometimes it's okay not to hit some of your goals, because you learn through that process of what you're really good at and what you're not, or what really makes you happy and what doesn't.
If you always hit your goals, you're not reaching high enough.
Yep. Any other thoughts, Regina? How do you set goals from a business perspective? I mean, marketing, kind of walk them through.
Yeah, so we actually share our goals now across the group, right? So we want to make them shareable, and we cascade our goals to make sure they're all aligned. Because as a team, we want to make sure that we all rowing in the same direction, right? So we cannot really afford to have different people and different pieces of the puzzle going in opposite directions, even though they might sound really fine, but at the end of the day, they need to converge. So we do share them. So we start really cascade with the organization. What are the key goals that are trying to reach? How does that reach, let's say, certain business or region, and then every individual, right? And at the end of the day, what we do is actually share where we're going. So as a business, I'm responsible for North America, but I'll sit down with my peers in other regions frequently, honestly, every quarter or so, to see where we're going, where we're heading, where do we need to pivot. This is all normal, right? So timelines are set, and we do our best to try to estimate what the future is going to be based on a certain given assumptions. But assumptions are just that, are assumptions, right? And if you learn more and if you learn better, you adjust them. And if you're not going to be able to hit them, then you come up with a different plan to try to mitigate that, right? So this is how we do as a business and also as individuals. So as far as career progression, we want to make sure that we have the resources that are developed to meet those goals, right? So everything needs to be connected as part of this big plan. So sharing is super important. It keeps everybody accountable too, right? So there's no secret to our goals. Internally, everybody knows what they are, and everybody should be working towards the same.
And you also have direct reports. Talk about how you set up their professional development plan and accountability.
Yeah, so from an accountability standpoint, so one of the things that we do internally is use a method called stop, start, and continue. So as we're reviewing goals, think about what are the things you need to start doing that you're not doing to achieve your goals. And then what are some things that you need to stop doing? What are some things maybe you're wasting your time on or that are not really a priority to the goal? What are some of those I guess, time wasters that you need to stop doing and maybe delegate to other people in order to reach your goal? And then what are the things that you need to continue doing? So what are the things that are working well that you need to continue with? So that's one of the tools that I use with my team and that we've used to try to identify those areas and keep people on track with their goals.
The other thing that I think it's important too, as far as personal development goals, it's important that we share those, right? So many times I think for leaders in companies, we don't necessarily know, we cannot read minds, right? Of what people want, what they intend. And many times we're doing people discussions, right? So succession plans and opportunities and things may arise. And sometimes we may not have the right individual and the right fit because that conversation really never happened, right? So we really encourage every manager to have that conversation with the people in the team. We want to know and we want to formalize that. So there is not a guarantee that that fit is necessarily going to happen. But if that dialogue is not open and transparent, and if the plans are only for yourself, how can everybody else help you? So it's not just within a company, but within your network, right? So if I know about people who have certain goals and I happen to come across a certain opportunity that may be even outside of my own responsibility or my organization, I can connect the dots, right? So it's important that we share them, because the more we share, the more those things can actually materialize. They don't become just your own internal dream, right? So it's a whole village that's around you to help. And companies would do that for their employees if they take it seriously. And also, people within their network are your allies too. So use that to your favor. So advertise your own goals so they know where you're trying to reach and they can help you get there.
One bad example, the other side I'll give, it's when I was a student, someone from the school, from grad program, decided all students should have an IDP or individual development plan, but there's no requirement for reviewing it, or somebody's going to help you to review your goals and on timely basis, and ended up being just students have to do, but nobody's checking. And so to me, this is a failure. So like you said, if you share the goal with people, or on we review it and on a timely basis, I think that's how the individual development plan really is going to work.
Don't be afraid to share your goals with as many people as you want. Okay? Most people like to see people succeed. Now, there are others that don't. Stay away from them. But positive people want you to succeed. If you tell them what your goals are, they will help you. And the more people you tell, the more people you're accountable to, and it will drive you to stay the course. I'm going to buy a brand new car for my birthday next year, and it's going to be Jeep Grand Cherokee with all the bells and whistles. And for me to do that, I've got to do this, this, and this. And my color is this. I'm going to get a slate gray when I'm making this up. It's not what I want. But tell everybody about it. And then you will it will bring you confidence. It will bring you encouragement. And it will keep you on the course, because you don't want to look dumb to these people when you're still driving around your 1978 Ford Pinto. Nobody here knows what a Ford Pinto is. That's okay.
That might be valuable today, Dan. What are you talking about?
What is that?
It's an ugly old car made with an aluminum block engine. It didn't last very long. Casey, I'm not always in these. Do we have 6 minutes, or do we have more?
We have about 6 minutes left. And that's we have last minute for time. Looking at the number of attendees, we're a little low compared to what we anticipated that signed up. So what we would do at the end of the hour, so everybody's aware, is we're going to jump off this webinar, and I post it in the Q&A. If everybody can get that link, hopefully they can see that Zoom link. we're going to go over to a breakout room. So next time when we have more attendees, we'll make more rooms, and we'll try to be start pairing you guys with some people that you're try not to go to the same rooms and stuff if you know somebody, so you can grow your network. And the mentors will, if they can stay, they'll come over. I know some of us have other priorities at the top of the hour, and so I just that's the plan. So any last minute thoughts, questions, comments, and Amanda can close us out. So.
Yeah, I've got one or two. Dan Simmons with Continental Search. It's a pleasure to be a sponsor here. Tell your friends, tell your professors. This is a wonderful program. You'll get a lot out of it. We're looking forward to being a participant again this year. Casey, I've got a call at the top of the hour. I've got to jump, but best wishes. Good to be with you again this year.
Thank you, Dan.
So thank you to all our attendees, and thank you for the Coffee and Career Committee volunteers for being on this call. We hope that this was beneficial to you, but please, reach out if you do have more questions, and please join us in the chat room at following.
Yes, once again, congratulations for this program. It's great to see the time and the investment on developing the generation. We're going to be interacting in the marketplace in so many different ways, right? So we look at you as a talent pool, as future customers, people that are going to be working together. So wish you all the best of luck, and we're happy to be supporting this. I need to jump as well at the top of the hour, unfortunately, but I'll be back for future interactions. Thank you, Casey. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we'll jump on over to that Zoom link. Everybody got that real quick?
Yes, we got it. Thank you.
All right. All right, I'll see you in the breakout room.
See you.
Bye, everybody.